All right, just going live from the current location again, just to discuss one of the previous topics mentioned in the previous archive. So my understanding is that, hypothetically speaking, although this is not the correct color of my eyes, but this is the only part of my face that might be correct. Other than my hair is supposed to be the most blonde, natural, bleach blonde hair that any person could have without being albino. And my skin is supposed to be like a porcelain white, like white, like snow white with a pink undertone. But I'm not veiny, if that's the right way to say that. I don't have varicose veins, if that's the best way to say that. So as far as the challenges associated with constitutional rights for me, that without additional support, because there's been a constant attempt to impair timeline and consecutive series of events. So we're all about working towards short-term, long-term goals. So initially that was monetary, right? But almost as if we were thunderstruck, right? We were shell-shocked. We were worse than shell-shocked. So whatever they did, one of our older brothers, who we didn't know was our older brother, Matt Damon, or he goes by the stage name Matt Damon. And then there's Brad Pitt. They're in these films with George Clooney, Ocean's 11, 12, all those, James Pearson Bronson, who might be one of our dads. I don't know that we knew that, or if maybe I knew him differently than the presence that he has amongst society as a celebrity status and athlete and all that. One second, I've got a little Matt Damon in the Bourne movies, the Jason Bourne movies. I had mentioned a few days ago, so these perpetrators keep trying to steal my gender from me, and I don't know what the motive is for that. As far as biological matter harvesting, what they're attempting to steal, I don't even, at this time, as far as one of the guests that attends the meal program, more newly, I suppose, maybe around this, maybe he's attended longer than I did. I don't know, because I've been so misguided and blatantly lied to. But a lot, really quickly, just to kind of help people understand, like, wherever my home is, despite this being our land, and maybe we had been here, my family members are very, very tall, like near 7 feet tall. So in addition to my authentic chronological age, I'm not, just to kind of give an analogy of my role, despite my capacity, and I'm not even at capacity, even though I'm functional in a way that people would think maybe there's nothing wrong, but this is really, I'm not at capacity in so many ways. And my dads are really close with me and my husband and our brothers, the group that we would spend time with. So we have some brothers here that are, I would say, I would guess, are not done growing. And that's why we mentioned, like, hypothetically, the illegal experiments that were being conducted, and that's why we had hypothesized, although Adolf is my maternal grandfather, right? So, but we don't proceed where Adolf was at with the narrative with the public, and really only we had a core dad group that kind of was maybe hypothetically privy to hypothetical topics of conversation that had affected the family system, how we all became a family, even though they're related to my great grandpa and primary biological dad. So there was the utmost sentiment and reverence and respect for whatever mom Carolyn's situation had been. And so as far as like Charles Middleton and Diana and all that, we didn't really completely I don't know that we really discussed that, but the way that our dads are with us, they're not like Santa Claus, if that's the best way to say that, but they have, like, if a kid thinks of whatever, for whatever religion, whether it's Hanukkah or Christmas, or I'm not recalling the other kinds of significant holidays that could exist, maybe Thanksgiving or Rosh Hashanah, or there's something that's always significant that's captivating about the reverence that our parents have for us and their undivided attention. They're very successful and accomplished, and they find a way to hone in on us, like me and my husband. I don't know if they find a way to like let us know that we're individual. They really pay attention to us. In a way that we've never had to fight for their time or fight for their attention. But I wouldn't guess that they would say that I'm socially inept because of that, if that's the right way to say that. But as far as documentation, and some people discuss having a filter, and there's nothing wrong with allowing for the most objective information to be available. And we've as far as narration, first, second, third person, as far as are we creating characters, or what are we doing? How would we hypothetically keep these archives for the long term, for like our private library? And would we consider revisiting, reevaluating, and assessing and editing and formulating like interview questions, for example, so that we get the most accurate narrative of how I was affected, what was going on with language for me, even though there's nothing wrong, and the emotional component, and staying focused, and time management and prioritization. So that's what's bizarre about this situation, is that there's no rationale for me to be here. So I've never forfeited my responsibilities, which is why we keep a very structured schedule and we're very predictable. But so many people, to get refocused on what some of the challenges have been, which is almost bizarre, is that this is like the only part that this is starkly different. People apparently, because of how rare the color of my eyes are, they don't even process the accurate color of my eyes. Almost like this information somehow is available in some sort of conundrum of a parallel system, hypothetically, possibly, because I don't have a metric to measure that quantitatively. So in some ways, this could almost support that like my constitutional rights exist, but they don't. And for some reason, the perpetrators rely on the fact that I can't see myself accurately anywhere, and that no one near me, for example, in the ladies' restroom, there's 2 sinks at the one cafe, there's 2 restroom cubicles and 2 sinks. And there could be a woman right next and washing her hands at the sink right next to where I'm at. And she would see this reflection in the mirror. She wouldn't actually see me. And then if she had the courage, like if she had realized that I might actually be who I am and tried to look at me, the automatic situation, she might faint or panic. Like that's how different I look. And I don't know exactly what that phenomenon is called, but when people second guess themselves, this is worse than that. That's the right way to say that. And then there's a social etiquette of not wanting to seem not socially apt or being rude or something like that. But there are extremes, right? There's people that will rush to the restroom and violate so violently, as far as like the biological warfare, if they're ingesting something to be a host to try to create a new virus, and then there's aggressive bouts of flatulence and defecation and all of that. There's a smog cloud of odor that could exist even if just fleeting. And they masturbate in the stall right next to me. They seem to know if I'm going in there to try to freshen up and I'm exposed, and maybe, like in positioning that would be optimal for hygiene, but at home, like not in a public restroom, even if the stall door is shut, right? But we've been forced into the situation where we don't have access to plumbing the illegal banning from places. That's one example of these people they aren't concerned about repercussions or consequences. So initially I didn't know that my family was told we were dead. So, but that couldn't change the process of getting to that hypothetical. And I don't know why I didn't even have I didn't even consider like my family loves me. I don't know how to say that. Because my priorities, I was at a different hierarchy, or I was focused on something different. I don't know how to say. I'm not certain that there's a justification or rationalization for that, other than somehow I was still focused on whatever I needed to be focused on to get to this stage. So that has to stay objective, and I'm not certain how best to say that, other than so that freedom of speech seems to be the one constitutional right that's constantly causing problems. Because initially, when I had realized this is not the shock value, I was somewhere and given the wrong information. I was denied any hygiene equipment. Like I wasn't allowed to shave or anything like that. It smells like cigarettes. And I was denied a mirror. I wasn't allowed to look in the mirror. So that was for however long someone tried to do something to me. The shock value of I don't know that it would just be the shock value of whatever had happened, but they did something, they used certain tactics to make me not recognize myself. Like they tried to make it like I had created some sort of, I don't know, I couldn't even begin, like I woke up somewhere and they gave me the wrong information. They were forcing the wrong information. I had no proof of who I actually am. So I couldn't even proceed with, but this is who I am. I had no proof, couldn't see, I still can't see myself anywhere. And I'm not speaking with the right accent. No support. So every person near me tries to say that I'm Jessie Lamont, but I'm not, which is one of the reasons that Winter is a name that we'll figure out how that evolves, even though my name is Eleuthera Irani DuPont, also known as Kitty Spencer. But this is not what I look like. So freedom of speech and the stalking, the terrorizing, the harassment, we don't know exactly what the motives are, other than what's called the entertainment industry steals. But I don't know what their motives are. I don't know what the motive or the rationale, other than monetary gain, I suppose. I don't know. There's an odor that would indicate someone smoking a cigarette, and I don't see anyone smoking a cigarette. And usually the apartment building right across the terrace, the deck, if people have smoked cigarettes, that usually doesn't linger over this way. I don't see anybody sitting on the benches on the terrace here. The windows to the church right behind me don't open, so I don't know where the secondhand cigarette smoke is coming from. So as far as the viruses that live on secondhand smoke and the additional dangers of secondhand smoke from cigarettes, just very extremely disrespectful. but smells like some sort of like dirty kitchen and cigarettes, and then that spot smells like urine, human urine and cigarettes. So that odor was not over here when I first arrived here and got situated. I did kick all the cigarette butts and the gravel here to try to help dissipate any lingering odors. Just on the gravel, this is separate from the bricked terrace, and there's a mound. Someone's built something as if it's a sandcastle, but for me, God forbid I set a boundary for myself, someone would be that petty to make a complaint as if I was doing something way worse that I'm not actually participating in. So there's no respect for my space, and I don't have, as far as examples of how this has caused compromise that I can't see myself accurately, I would say there's unlimited examples, but as far as specific examples, as far as constitutional rights, I have not created an outline to manage that because I still don't really have support. I haven't received the correct documents. So even though this is trying to optimize this kind of situation, so I'm trying to support the most objective timeline to get a professional to determine what's really going on, so that there's no, but I can't really say that there's a problem. That's what makes this tough, right? So this is extremely tough, and I am a citizen. That's the other topic. Like, even though this is part of our, this is one of our homes, right? So like the land, the continent, we would create a more permanent residential home and presence here, but that still means that the legitimacy of who I am needs to be acknowledged. So not being able to see myself has really taken a toll. Not speaking with the correct accent has really taken a toll. My husband not being here is the most damaging. And being threatened with punishment and consequences of people trying to wrongfully institutionalize me has been a recurring, had been, I suppose, how part of how I ended up here. But with no support, when certain people end up being classified as a psychiatric, I'm not a psychiatric patient, but Jessie Lamont was a psychiatric patient, and they tried to give me her identity. So the slander, the defamation is, I mean, this is way worse than that. But whoever tried to force that narrative, I had no evidence to disprove what they were claiming. So I had to stay responsible and accountable for myself. So this is really truly like a never-ending nightmare. That's how bad this is. To then try to get to City Hall to request marriage license, our marriage is in every jurisdiction. And then how have people looked at the ID and not realized that that's not me? And I would say what I recall as being Claire Lamont Powell was the biggest issue in getting the correct information. I don't know if she seemed that she was potentially poisoned, and she wouldn't stop terrorizing me. So I don't know what the issues were with Frankie and Jessie and Callan, but then to also learn that that's hypothetically not even their biological mom, and that their biological mom was brainwashed. I can't imagine, well, we can't cancel out what's happened to me, but we can't cancel out what's happened to their mom and to them either. Although Frankie and Jessie have not really been helpful with as far as they're one of them or both of them has somehow been recruited to participate in me being here. So like if I was given Jessica Hannah Steinman Lamont's information, what name is she going by? I didn't even know if she was in Philadelphia. For some reason, I had wondered, was she in Ukraine? And then I have to realize that maybe I had been routed through Ukraine when they were saying there were travel restrictions. But then I haven't been here I've been here less than 10 months. So the timeline doesn't match because the beginning of the war in Ukraine would have been almost 24 months. So I'm not saying, well, I mean, if it's been that long, then okay, maybe it's some point, after that started. But the narratives that I've been here since that war started, which is apparently not true. So I don't know how I could, unless someone played video for me. So to have to kind of process what people tried to do to me, is horrible, but I'd rather have the facts. But who would do that, right? That's not realistic. Not what people are trying to, the way that I've been backed in the corner is that people try to act like crime doesn't exist and like bad people don't exist and like trafficking doesn't exist, and that's not true. So aside from whatever the dysfunction was with the woman who changed her name to Claire, didn't know she changed her name to Claire, and then the woman that was the actual Claire who went by another name, I don't even know what name she went by. My understanding is that it was not Claire. So, or did she also still go by Claire and just did, I don't know. But she looks very much like the woman that was causing problems. So initially when I had seen her in the neighborhood, I was like staying away because the woman that lived with my brother, who didn't know he's my brother, was dangerous and belligerent. And I didn't know why she was belligerent because my brother is not a recreational drug user at all. But then I didn't know if he was drugged and I didn't have any evidence. And I don't know how he's like an athlete and academic. It's just not his lifestyle. So usually people that don't live that kind of lifestyle aren't in high risk environments, but his environment was extremely high risk. So there was too much omitted information. So getting to City Hall to request the documents, my accurate birthday, but because of the compromise, I can't give my accurate birthday. So my life is different. We live by a different set of rules. I mean, we are different. So being born the bloodline queen, that's from day of birth. And there's no regent, there's no conservator. I don't recall this time any conversation with Dad John or any dad about taking on responsibility. My understanding was that Dad John didn't really pick. I suppose because he was consumed what was going on with Mom, Carolyn, and then I don't know if he was mitigating challenges from Diana. And I don't know, there's a few calls. There was a lot that was going on at a rate and frequency that people were necessarily catching up. I don't know that it wasn't a priority to them. I don't know. I don't want to be disrespectful or make an assumption, but Dad John and my grandpa, I suppose Grandpa Adolf, and great grandpa, I say Edward Albert, were supporters. That's how me and my husband were coronated or indoctrinated, if that's the right way to say that. And as far as, but then there's Howard and all of our brothers that didn't really, I still don't understand that part. Like Grandpa JFK is listed as assassinated and hypothetically he's still alive. I don't even know if we knew him or if he was in like witness protection or something like that. He apparently was told that Dad John was dead and he was apparently kidnapped. So I don't even really know where he grew up because Carolyn is a princess. So I don't understand. Carolyn, at first my understanding was that George, who they say was the king, was her dad. But it was actually Philip, who she thought, Prince Philip from Greece, who she knew to be her dad. And her dad, is King Edward Albert's grandson. And him and my mom are like 2 years apart. But then her mom would have had to have been, it would have been her mom's mom or something like that, that would have been George's daughter. It's not the right timeline. Is that the right way to say that? So however, people were trying to fuse my timeline they were trying to fuse many different timelines. So who went by the name Elizabeth Ruth is Mary Elizabeth Middleton. And then there's a politician in Ireland who's very short stature. But that would have been who was listed publicly. The cigarette, I can't be here if people are going to be smoking cigarettes. They need to stop smoking. That's what I meant to post. They're not supposed to smoke. Prince Philip was married to my grandma, and for some reason I just didn't know him that way. And they list someone that looks like Bill Clinton, who's one of our dads, his cousin. That's not what Prince Philip looks like. So that was the only information that was available. And then Carolyn and Diana look alike, but the picture that they list for Carolyn and for Dad John is not correct. So just working with variables, but definitely want to be as accurate as possible. I don't anticipate who does or doesn't know what. And if I'm a biological family member and I can't even provide the information, where am I supposed to start with figuring out? And this is all kind of like, in some ways, has no basis, right? That's how bad this is. So we just had done some research, and I almost didn't even consider to research John Kennedy, right? Because of what my life became. So we earn money all the time. That's the other issue. We had no proof of that. So the bank accounts, documents, being able to see myself. All of the problems that could arise from that being not possible have been a problem. To allow for the most objective information, even though there's like almost no, this is just really that bad. I don't know if there are detectives, but this is so bad, right? So for the people that, let's say they're mob cartel gang, understand the reality of management and human psyche and the rudimentary brain, if that's the best way to say that. How, like, this has to be, are you stunned? That's like some of our, so we're just staying as proactive as possible and continuing to view my life as a blessing and a gift. But I do want to make sure that I'm optimizing in the ways that are part of just me existing, and I don't, the seems like to have evolved since being forced here. And so because I don't, me and my husband, when we spend time together, this is kind of, we live our lives this way in private. Consistent is important to us, and we don't want people to have our picture. So, but at the same time, we used to document, the documentation that I worked to support consistently was offline. Issues with no access to our money, as far as where to store all of our archives, running out of disk space, if that's the best way to say that. So we had to use another platform to just kind of stock to archive everything, so that we had a timeline, and when there was time, review each archive. But we've not reviewed any archive. We've not edited anything. So at the same time, though, I still need to be able to see myself. As far as people taking photos of me, my understanding is that I'm already illegally recorded audio and video all of the time. So as far as how many people's devices have spyware on their devices, which is different from Bluetooth hosting, I don't know who can get an accurate picture of me and who can't. I don't know who is supported enough to realize the reality of what's going on with me, that they can handle being hired to accurately document what's going on. I don't know how many different corporate establishments, apparently on the security cameras, they can see me, correct? So as far as who's hacking that, which was our venture for an international juncture and segue for cybersecurity, and I can't discuss that any further. This is just really mean-spirited, cruel, and obnoxious, and immature, and detrimental. So I'm not a hefty woman, right? So there's, I mean, any individual, male or female, if they don't see themselves accurately, there's a phenomenon that happens. There's some sort of effect that there's not like lethargy, if that's the right way to say that, but their mood doesn't completely change, but something is different that involves some sort of intervention to ensure that they're maintaining like their homeostasis, if that's the best way to say that. So for whatever reason, I mean, there's many different pathologies that are ongoing simultaneously. So we don't condone what's happening. We don't, but I don't believe that we should have to continue to look at this face every day. And so that's, as far as, there's nothing to negotiate. I don't know how many different governments would have to be part of why this hasn't stopped, because every window pane, every mirror, I mean, think of what kind of technology that involves, no matter how simple we've made the technology. People can't see what's causing that to happen, right? So that we had mentioned sonar, the illegal use of sonar, but that's a little bit different, right? As far as people illegally surveilling me, how would they be setting that up? And the top what's community and what's neighborhood, because no civilian neighborhood should have this kind of technology. So what's going on? So for me to have to, like, with no support, constant attempts to hurt me, I was en route from one location over to here. There was some sort of commotion like a few blocks from here, and that was the first time where I had realized that I couldn't see myself. So this is the shock value of, and then people trying to force me to forget that I have hybrids, that I'm pregnant. So that meant to be managing what we're managing. So some people that are in shock would have that kind of experience, but I don't have proof of who I am yet. Because I wonder if that's what's most. I don't have proof of what I am, who I am yet, and the legitimacy of who I am and what my life was before being forced here. And then we have to consider that there's something, whatever put me here, there's still another agenda, despite how bad what the agenda against, to the motive to get me here and against my family that has existed however many years before my birth, me and my husband. So I would always remain committed, but the way that I've had to create this hierarchy of my existence has been, I would say, created familiarity, but always created familiarity and predictability in the ways that we're able to. And so the science of bonds and attachment. I'm not a neonate. So some people are incapacitated in a way where like their language and all that, whatever goes on is a little bit different. Their parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system, and their fine and gross motor skills and their self-esteem and the whole science associated with the biological science of esteem. We've not quantified or specified that yet, but that this is enforced, that this is just bizarre. So initially people weren't really around to support that someone was trying to hurt me. Initially we wouldn't have known that there was food poisoning. So we were just dealing with, we were realizing there's uncertainty and we were trying to work towards financial goals. That's a narrative that we have, that I have. And then the work environments were so bad that I had to consider a career change. But yeah, that was the practical, but that was risky, right? Because I would never want to be homeless. So I am shocked that there's a way that this seems to just have gotten worse, to be very honest, because people keep something's going on and I'm making a different choice, if that's the best way to say that. Like I would never ever imagine that I was stalked or that someone was trying to traffic me or steal from me. I would never even think of myself as being this rare young woman. But people are very mean, and then there are people that are incapacitated, all coinciding. How coincidental, accidental could, I don't know, I couldn't proceed looking for exact metrics in that regard. I had to support just staying consistent with documentation, even if I had opportunities for growth, if that's the best way to say that, or if I was challenging my perception about what I viewed as a challenge or a barrier to accomplishing short-term, long-term goal. So I've never forfeited being married or anything. Well, I've sometimes, as far as creating, we archive all the time. I archive all the time, but I'm put in situations sometimes where I can't justify my husband's absence. And then I have to, the attacks are really bad. And then I have to make sure that I stay, the logical course of well, this is the reality of situation, and I can't let people disrespect me. I don't want to disrespect my husband or our marriage. I understand that our life is very extremely rare, but the fundamentals of being married and committed to each other and as close as we are still have to exist. So I don't know if he agrees with me. For me, what's really tough right now, despite needing to better further quantify specifics, I need more information to be able to quantify specifics about how bad this has really been, measure that. And then as far as my irritation with being in a different geographic location than my husband, I miss him and I don't want to sacrifice time with him and these sentimental moments that are supposed to be for us and our family. And the people keep trying to violently violate our marriage and our boundaries with me not being able to see myself is very upsetting and bothersome. And so, as his wife, I'm kind of almost like, well, even though he knows what I look like, I still can't forfeit being able to see myself and being able to see him. And this forces a mindset that makes it almost like he never existed. And that's just really tough because it's just like very, very tough. And I don't see that as helpful, to be very honest. The only, as far as we're married, we love each other. Um, every moment is to be experienced together. But as far as being around the strangers, I'm still visible from a security camera. So if I'm near strangers, if someone's looking at the security camera, allegedly people don't know what I look like. So it's almost like all of the wrong people can see me from security camera, and then most people don't know I'm sitting right there in plain sight, but they wouldn't know to look. Or the people that are hacking the security cameras they're the only people that are actually seeing me. But that can't be true, right? Because the Starbucks doesn't have a military staff. Someone is smoking, but they need to not. Why does the so I don't want strangers to be able to see me. I want to be able to see me. So I don't know if we're able to look at the video together so that I can see myself, but I need our devices updated so that I can document appropriately. This is too damaging. For timeline. And they've located Jesse Lamont and Frankie Lamont and Callan. So this is not good because this is what they look like. Yeah. So we would never, ever, ever risk their safety, but we have to document. We went through so who's going to assist with completing this task? And then how do the goals change? We just stay consistent with the schedule. This isn't like, so many people have tried to say there's something wrong, and I'm affected by that. So would I just get new devices? And then would we still keep these devices? Okay. Thanks. And if, thank you. And if you could specify that there's never to be a deviation. Thank you.